Hi everybody, welcome to Bookies. I'm Bear. Thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate it. So, I have an admission to make. I kind of hate science fiction. It's just, there's something about the genre that just never appealed to me. But I try. And last time I tried, I read Mickey 7 and I thought it was so boring. So, there's virtue in trying and trying again because just last week, Operation Bounce House by Matt Dinniman published, and I read it, and I really loved it. So, I'm going to tell you why I loved it. But before I do that, I want to invite you to subscribe to the channel. This is the only YouTube channel that I'm aware of that, when fully monetized, will give all those proceeds to local libraries and literacy programs, both my local library and yours. And so, if you like that idea and you like the content, please subscribe. All right, so our main character in this novel, Operation Bounce House, is Oliver Lewis, and he's on a planet that is light years away from Earth by travel. He's third generation on the planet, and essentially all he really wants to do is just take care of the family farm and play gigs with his band. And so he's leading a really simple but enjoyable life. However, Oliver is soon going to be disabused of any notions of peace and security because the government on Earth has decided to conduct an eviction action against the planet of New Sonora. And what that means is the government's going to contract with the Apex Corporation to remove all the inhabitants. That's my polite way of saying it's a genocide. And Apex is contracted to perform the genocide. The clever thing here in the novel is that Apex is going to use gamers to accomplish its goals. And so these gamers on Earth use these remote mechanized units to attack the Earth. And so this novel is really about that effort by the government on Earth. That's called Operation Bounce House. Oliver, his sister Lulu, and his friends are going to try the impossible to repel this invasion. So that's basically the structure of the novel. Let me tell you what I really loved about the novel. First, I want to talk about the pacing. The novel's 448 pages long. You won't notice that length at all. You're going to blow right through it because the story is so compelling. Dinniman is always mixing humor and the sorrow that comes with war. He kind of mixes them up together and it keeps you interested. Operation Bounce House is one of those novels that you can't wait to come home from work or stop whatever it is you're doing so you can pick the novel up and read it. Pacing is not a problem with this novel. And the next reason I'm going to suggest to you why you should read this novel is the humor. And I've never read a Dinniman novel before, so Dungeon Crawler Carl, I haven't read those yet. I have them, but I haven't read them. So I'm going to assume that Dinniman uses humor in all of his novels because it does it so artfully here. And a lot of the humor is the interaction between the one truly intelligent AI they have in their possession, Robert. And Robert, when he was originally programmed, was programmed to essentially treat Oliver, his sister Lulu, like their 10-year-old children. And so there's a lot of humor in that. So he gives out little like smiley face stickers or frowny face stickers when they do something good or bad. And they have to follow these 10 rules. One of the 10 rules that was programmed into Robert is good hygiene, okay, and no swearing. And so every time somebody swears around Robert, he has a little stinger and he stings them. And Dinniman approaches this in several different ways, and it's always funny. So the humor in this novel is great. I think you're really going to enjoy it. And I'll come back to the humor in a little bit, but let me tell you about the conduct of warfare in this novel. I have generally found that when you read books that try to relate battle and warfare, they kind of tend to drag a little bit. You know, the authors tend to jump into so much detail that it's just on and on and on. Nobody wants to read 50 straight pages of a battle. However, Dinniman isn't like that. He essentially gives you something new to think about every time he does return to the warfare aspect of the novel. And once again, the humor is mixed in. And there's some really big questions that arise over and over. How do you fight a corporation that has unlimited resources? How do you fight soldiers, the mechanized units, that essentially when they're damaged or destroyed can be replaced just by mommy handing Junior a little bit more pocket change so he can buy another mechanized unit? And that's the really interesting and I think compelling and unique idea behind Operation Bounce House. All right, so how do you actually combat that? And that's the interesting thing and the humorous thing in this. The answer is psychological warfare. Robert, the intelligent AI, is able to really get background on all of these gamers. And Oliver and his friends manage to use their foibles, their crimes, their obsessions, things that they don't want people to know about against them. And there's humor in that kind of sabotage. And it's really fun to watch the gamers react to that. And I know from personal experience, I love gaming. And, you know, sometimes you get like, we call them squeakers. It's probably not nice, but, you know, a little 12-year-old kid that starts screaming in a high voice when something goes wrong in the game. And there's a lot of that kind of thing in this novel. And it's super funny. But the psychological warfare, the sabotage that's involved in it is the secret sauce that's going to help Oliver, his sister Lulu, and his friends combat the Apex Corporation. All right, so that's the funny stuff, but here's kind of the big picture, and there's a little thinking in this novel because it hooks into what human nature is like. How do you get a bunch of gamers on Earth to kill innocent women and children on a remote planet? Well, you propagandize them, right? You tell them that they're terrorists and that they intend harm to you and your family. And then you use the software to promote that idea. You show them with guns in their hands when they don't have guns in their hands and things of that nature. The idea is to alarm and terrorize the gamers such that they want to kill the women and children. But the interesting thing in this novel, and this is the aspect of human nature that I really enjoyed, is that it would appear that many of these gamers, the adult gamers in particular, tend to kind of figure out that maybe the people they're killing aren't exactly what they thought they were. And the shocking thing is they don't care. And that's a really dark thought. And so combining the humor, the excellent storytelling, and this dark undercurrent through the whole novel is really genius. Lastly, what I really enjoyed and why you should read the novel is that Dinniman dangles the possibility that in the future, beyond Operation Bounce House, there might be a situation where what we've known as good could turn to evil. There might be a situation where the AI runs amok and poses intergalactic danger to everyone. There's this idea that you and I, by our biology, we become obsolescent, we die, but there's this notion that maybe there's an end around to that. And so all of these things are kind of dangled at the end of the novel, and it kind of makes you want to really like, hey, when's the next novel coming out? Because you'd like to see how those things play out, along with the humor and the dark undercurrent. Ultimately, I have to eat a little crow here. Not all science fiction is bad, because this novel is excellent. I rate it 5 stars out of 5 stars. And to give you an idea of how I rate, all last year I read books, 2-3 books every week, and there were 2 5-star books. And I think Operation Bounce House is a 5-star book, and it's happened so early in the year. It's kind of exciting. And you know, the other thing is we've had centuries now of authors writing fiction, and you would think that people would run out of creative ideas to present to readers, but that's simply not the case. And it makes you marvel at the creativity of the human race. Dinniman is certainly an example of that, and I'm so glad that he's come up with a fresh idea that we could really enjoy, while also taking on some big picture issues with humor and also a little bit of a gritty, dark undercurrent. I really think that whether you love fantasy or science fiction, you're gonna love this novel. If you're a guy like me and you don't read a lot of science fiction, you're kind of hesitant, this is a perfect entry point for you, and you should read it. Or if you just want to read an excellent novel, this novel's for you. So I invite you, buy this novel and read it and see if I'm right. Everybody, it's out there waiting for you. All you got to do is take hold of the flame. And with that, right about now, you should see a little picture of me in my younger days. And if you click on that, you can subscribe. And I would really, really love to have you. With that, have a great day and God bless.